Take two.
This is Stephen the Disney Drago Robinson. You're watching the one and only Sport Icon. Bow!
All right, everybody, hope you're all doing fantastic. So in this video, I'm going to give you a list of names that I would like to see Stephen Robinson fight next. Of course, we're talking 2023. What kind of path I would like to see Stephen take. Now, of course, I have had these conversations with Stephen over like the last couple of days and whatever, ever since he knocked out Nick Campbell in the 4th round. Now, unfortunately for Stephen, even though he's a prospect and he should be fighting journeyman like other prospects are, he hasn't been allowed to do that. He's been fighting people like Nick Campbell, 5-0, 5 knockouts, Scottish heavyweight champion. That's what these are the kind of fights that he's had to be taking. Other ones like, say, 0 wins and 1 defeat. Well, who did that person lose to? Maybe that person that they lost to is going to go on to do great things. You don't know. Okay, it's always risky fights. Outside of Phil Williams, of course. But again, Phil Williams is so much better than what his record would certainly suggest. Really is. Like a lot of journeymen, they are. But unfortunately for Stephen, his days of fighting journeymen, even though they never really materialised anyway, are probably not going to happen. Okay, which is very unfortunate because I know a lot of the things that he does in sparring and in the gym hasn't quite translated onto fight night yet. What people look at is, well, he can take a punch and he can give a punch. But again, you have to remember, as an amateur, he had, 40 amateur fights, representing England, representing GB. You have to have something about you. Do you not? Of course you do. You have 60 feats. 3 of those were blatant robberies to the point where even the referee, of course, who was scoring the fights went, hey, you know what, it's just boxing politics, don't worry about it. Okay? He fought the likes of Delicious Ori and all these kind of ones, okay? So you have to have something about you, but as a pro, it hasn't quite translated yet, and I think a lot of it is because he hasn't been allowed to progress against a journeyman, okay? Anyway, that said, who would I like to see him fight next? Now, again, I have had brief conversations with Stephen and, of course, his team. Who next? What next? Now, whether Stephen decides to renew his deal with Sky Sports, I don't know. It's entirely on him. I'm not involved in that kind of stuff. Maybe, and again, I have to be careful what I say here, so I'll put it this way, maybe he'll go on to Matchroom. Maybe he'll go on to Wasserman. Maybe he'll go on to Queensbury, whatever. Maybe he'll go, because again, he's not a money-motivated kind of guy, maybe he'll go, you know what? I need to be progressing and fighting the kind of guys that I should have been fighting, like other prospects are, so I want to have a few fights on small hall. Maybe he'll decide to go down that route, okay? But if not, if he's going to commit himself to a TV deal, a big network, then when you fight and defeat a Nick Campbell, you can't go down. You can only go forward. That's all you can do. Now, regardless of where you think Stephen is, where he's going to go, that's entirely on you. And for me, for Stephen, his team, as we've said many, many times, we don't know. All we can do is enjoy the journey. And I'm proud of him. Win, lose, draw, however his career goes, I'm proud of him. How many fighters can say that they've had 3 fights on Sky Sports? How many? He can. One of them, as I said, against Nick Campbell. One of them against Reece Barlow. The main event, if you like, where he walked out in front of a packed arena. He closed the show for Sky Sports TV. Gets a knockout win in front of his hometown fans. Newcastle. How many fighters can say that? So no matter what happens with Stephen, he's achieved already, okay? But anyway, so again, the names that I want to give you are just me personally. I'm not saying he has to fight them next and all of them or 4 or 5 of them in 2023. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that for me personally, what I personally would like to see Stephen fight will go as such. So again, this is not a call out to any of those fighters that Stephen wants to fight you. This is not a message to these promoters or whatever. Okay, this is just me, Sport Icons, giving you some names. So we can look at domestically. Look at, say, again, I do know, and Stephen has put out there, he'd like to fight fighters who have an undefeated record. He wants to take prospects O's. That's what he wants. Franklin Ignatius, 5-0 with 1 draw. That 1 draw was to Jose Stewart, where he defeated Jose Stewart in the rematch, where a lot of people, including Wasserman, very, very high on Jose Stewart. Franklin Ignatius is the guy who defeated Shane Gill in Shane Gill's only fight prior to the Stephen Robinson fight. While it's quite unlikely that a rematch between Stephen and Shane Gill could ever happen, which would be great if it could, if not, defeat the guy who defeated Shane Gill. In some ways, that's getting revenge, isn't it? Okay? So why not a Franklin Ignatius? Maybe a Solomon Dakers, 5-0, matchroom fighter, Team GB. Why not? I think he may have actually fought Solomon Dakers as an amateur as well. I'm not sure. Johnny Fisher, 7-0, again, another matchroom fighter. David Adelaide, 10-0, Queensbury fighter. Mohammed Salim, 4-0, Scottish heavyweight. Maybe Stephen could fight him. Maybe clear out Scotland, if you like, for the heavyweights. Of course, he's not going to fight Jay McFarlane because he's very good friends with Jay McFarlane, but Mohammed Salim would be a good option, 4-0. Maybe, I don't know, maybe not next, but at some point in 2023, maybe he can fight a couple of his good friends, if you like. Cash Ali, 21-1. Or a Nathan Gorman, 19-2. I said he's good friends with them too. But listen, if the money's right, if the opportunity's right, why not? Or maybe look at international fighters who are ranked quite high that be interesting for Stephen. Like Christopher Lovejoy, 20 wins, 1 defeat. That 1 defeat was to Manuel Char. He's ranked quite high in the WBA, I think it is. Mark Demori, who's ranked very high in the WBA. 40 wins, 2 defeats and 2 draws. Mark Demori is a guy who lost to David Haye and David Haye's comeback, if you remember. Trevor Bryan, 22-1. That 1 defeat was to Dan Dubois. He's a Don King fighter. Why not? Safar Seferi, Tyson Fury's comeback opponent. He's still kicking around. 25 wins, 3 defeats, 1 draw. If he's good enough for Tyson Fury, he should be good enough for Stephen Robinson, right? Lucas Brown, 31 wins, 3 defeats. So 3 defeats were to Dillian White, Dave Allen, and I think it was it Paul Gallen, I think his name was? Of course, he had a great victory over Junior Fire not so long ago. Maybe Emmanuel Char, former WBA regular world heavyweight champion, which of course Lucas Brown was as well. 33 wins, 4 defeats. Again, we're looking at internationally. So as I said, I don't know how far Stephen's going to go. Stephen don't know how far he's going to go. Maybe over the next few years, maybe he'll take a couple of defeats along the way. Maybe, but it's all part of the journey. Or maybe he'll surprise a lot of people. People who say that he should look at the area title. Well, there is no area title in the Northeast. There isn't one. The only fighter he could potentially fight, possibly fight, is Darryl Hall. Darryl Hall, undefeated fighter. But me personally, again, I can only give you my own thoughts. I wouldn't want to see them two fight each other. I'd like to see them two help each other. I would. People say, like a Fraser Clark, again, Fraser Clark said how he'd beat Stephen Robinson. Again, that's a silly fight. For what reason? I mean, why would Fraser Clark fight Stephen Robinson? Why? Now, if Stephen Robinson wants to fight him, he's got nothing to lose in that fight, is he? If he loses, well, he's supposed to. If you beat him, okay, he gets propelled. But what does Fraser Clark get out of it? He's an Olympian, isn't he? You may say, well, another Sky Sports box fighter in Jamie TKV. Was he, 2-0, 3-0, something like that? Again, people don't know too much about him. So if Stephen beats him, they go, oh, well, so what? If he loses, definitely a bum. You see, it's all about risk and reward. That's all it is. I said, I don't know what Stephen's plans are going forward as far as who he's going to be with, what network. Again, what network he decides to be on will probably dictate who it is that he fights. Potentially, at least, anyway. But again, listen, he's always got the option to say no. But if you start saying no, then you don't get fight dates, okay, which means you don't get paid. But as I said before, he's not money motivated at all. And he is one of these kind of guys that, even if he had very, very little money, all he had was his gas and electric money, and if he's seen somebody who was really struggling, he'd give you that money. He would. He's that kind of guy. He's a lovely, lovely man. So maybe you might go, you know what, small hall shows for like the next 12 months. I'm going to do that. I'm going to fight some of these people who I should have been fighting anyway. Because, as I said quite a few times, some of the things I've seen him do in sparring would blow your mind. It really would. Against some very, very good sparring partners as well. He's fought a lot of good sparring partners out there. Martin Bacoli, Arlo Stevens, William Howe, Nathan Gorman, Hughie Fury, Cash Ali. The list goes on, okay? He's fought a lot of them. Well, I say fought, he sparred a lot of them. There's so much to him that you haven't seen yet. You haven't seen it. starting slow, that just seems to be his thing. He does that in sparring, okay? At some point, hopefully it'll click and he'll end up starting fast. But I'd like to see him challenge for the English title for sure. That's currently vacant. I'd love to see him fight for that. Why not? If not, fight for some IBO International or IBF European or WBO European, some trinket titles along the way. And let's just see where he goes. Let's see where he goes. But as I said before, he can't do what a Wilder done. Go fight bum after bum after bum after bum. He can't keep on doing that. He can't do that. He's not allowed to do that. He can't even do what Joshua done and Tyson Fury for their first 10 fights. He can't fight those kind of guys. Now he's beaten and fought and defeated a Nick Campbell. He can only go forward. Maybe that win is not necessarily a great thing. Maybe. But you know what? He'll fight anybody. He will. But anyway, that's just my thoughts. Of course, you're going to all have your own. Maybe you think he'll amount to nothing. Maybe you think he'll go on to become an English champion, challenge for the British or beyond. Who knows? We don't know. But all I said was before, and I mean it, just enjoy the journey. Just enjoy the journey. Why not? As I said before, he's already achieved. No matter what happens, he's achieved. He has. Drop your thoughts below. Click thumbs up, subscribe. Catch you next video.